There are rock stars, and then there are figures who seem to crawl out of the amplifier itself. Ozzy Osbourne was one of those figures. Somewhere between the smoke, the screams, the scandals, the eyeliner, and the trembling hands, Ozzy became something more than a front man. He became a legend. Welcome to Records and Reels. I'm John Robinson, and tonight we're stepping into the shadows with a man called the Prince of Darkness, Ozzy Osbourne. Before Ozzy became Ozzy, he was born John Michael Osbourne, a working-class kid from Aston, Birmingham. When Ozzy joined forces with Tony, Geezer, and Bill, they sounded like somebody had taken the blues, dragged it through an industrial alley, and found a ghost attached to it. Black Sabbath did not just play heavy music, they made heaviness feel spiritual. The first time listeners heard those dark riffs, the mood changed. Rock and roll had flirted with danger before, but Sabbath made danger feel like the room temperature. The music was ominous and strangely beautiful, like church bells ringing in a town where no one was sure the church was still open. And then came Ozzy's voice. It floated above the riffs like a distress signal from another planet, a little haunted and completely right. Part of Ozzy's mystery was that he seemed both terrifying and oddly harmless. Critics tried to categorize him, and Ozzy himself often looked like he'd wandered into the wrong press conference and was waiting for somebody to explain the snacks. Black Sabbath created atmosphere. They gave shape to dread, war, addiction, alienation, and spiritual unease. They opened the door for heavy metal, doom, grunge, goth rock, industrial music, and generations of bands who learned that darkness could be more than volume, it could be architecture. But Ozzy's story didn't stop with Sabbath. His solo career gave us a different Ozzy, theatrical, chaotic, melodic, and somehow even bigger. The madman became a brand, and the fans, well, they never left. He was proof that you could fall apart in public and still come back with a microphone in your hand. And that may be the real secret of his appeal. And yeah, there is the infamous bat incident. Bit the head off, right? But the legend lasted because beneath all that chaos was a man people recognized. Ozzy was darkness with a human face. Now, before we continue, please take a moment to subscribe to Nite Muse Media. If you enjoy stories about music, mystery, culture, and legends, hit subscribe and join us for more episodes of Records and Reels. It helps us keep these stories alive. And now back to Ozzy. In his later years, the image changed. The wild man of metal became a patriarch, a reality TV figure, a husband, a father, and a kind of beloved elder statesman of rock. Somehow, the Prince of Darkness ended up in living rooms across America, mumbling through family chaos on TV and making millions of people realize that behind the mythology was a man trying to navigate a household like everybody else. And then came the health struggles, all the surgeries and the Parkinson's diagnosis, the public frustration of a man who wanted to perform but found his body no longer obeying the force of his will. For somebody like Ozzy, that had to be its own private kind of thunder. And then came the final bow, the original Black Sabbath lineup reunited. Ozzy was seated on a throne, unable to command the stage in the old way, but still commanding it all the same. That kid from Aston returned home. The Prince of Darkness sat on a throne not as a gimmick, but because his body had become fragile. For all the spectacle, all the history, all the darkness, that final performance carried something tender. Ozzy had always been larger than life, but in the end he was also deeply human, and maybe that's why the farewell mattered. Because rock and roll is often sold to us as rebellion against death. Turn it up loud enough, live fast enough, burn bright enough, and maybe the ending will never find you, but it always does. Ozzy Osbourne was not just the Prince of Darkness, he was the patron saint of the beautifully unpolished. The reminder that sometimes the monsters under the bed are just musicians waiting for the downbeat. So tonight, we don't simply remember the scandals or the spectacle. We remember the final image of a man who went back to the beginning, sat on his throne, and gave the darkness one last song. I'm John Robinson, and this has been Records and Reels. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and thanks for supporting Nite Muse Media. Make sure you like, comment, share, and subscribe for more stories from the records, the reels, and the legends that refuse to fade. This has been a Nite Muse Media production.